Hello, I'm Jill Urbach, and you're in the right place for Hallmark Christmas movie reviews. Today I'm reviewing The Christmas House. I'll be going through several elements of the movie, including my Hallmark Christmas movie checklist, my favorite secondary characters, the wardrobe, any nitpicks I have, what's noteworthy about the movie, and where it falls on my personal Heartstring Meter, as well as my overall rating. Let's get started. Here's the synopsis of The Christmas House. Working through some difficult decisions, Mitchell family matriarch Phyllis and patriarch Bill have summoned their two grown sons, TV star Mike Mitchell and Brandon Mitchell, home for the holidays. It is their hope that bringing the family together to recreate the Christmas house will help them find resolution and make a memorable holiday for the entire family and community. As Brandon and his husband Jake make the trip home, they're anxiously awaiting a call about the adoption of their first child. Meanwhile, Mike reconnects with Andy, his high school sweetheart. Now, this was not your typical Hallmark Christmas movie romance. This was a family drama. It focused on an adult family plus one. And the family consisted of the matriarch Phyllis, played by Sharon Lawrence, and the patriarch Bill, played by Treat Williams. Now, Phyllis made me wish that I could order my family around with a whistle. Who can relate? And Treat Williams played a convincing husband who just wants to please his wife and as a loss as to how to do that. Jonathan Bennett played Brandon, one of Phyllis and Bill's two sons, and honestly, I could never figure out if he was the older son or the younger son. Not that it mattered. Brad Harder played Brandon's husband Jake, and he was charming as the son-in-law who was all in with reviving the parents' tradition of the Christmas house. In the movie, Brandon and Jake are in the process of adopting a child, and they're at that point where they're just waiting for the final phone call to say it's been approved or not. Robert Buckley played Mike, another son who was a successful Los Angeles-based actor. Anna Iori played Andy, Mike's love interest, and she and Mike had been best friends growing up, and then they had a falling out in high school, and perhaps this Christmas was going to be their second chance at love. I thought this was a well-rounded, cohesive cast, and it was really enjoyable as a viewer to have this family drama where we had three distinct couples who we could follow interacting with each other, but then also their individual storylines. There was no meet cute in this movie because it was not your traditional Hallmark romance, but I will say there was an interesting first introduction to a character. At the very beginning, we see this lawyer in the courtroom and he's doing his closing arguments, and right away, it just doesn't ring true. There's Christmas decorations up and he's being all over dramatic, and then he brings in all this last minute evidence, and the judge looks at this file and after a very cursory look throws out all the charges and the jury applauds, and I'm thinking this is so cheesy and so fake. And then the lawyer turns to the camera and gives this cheesy smile, and you realize you're watching the conclusion to a TV show. So of course it was cheesy because the show was called Handsome Justice. So that was a fun little twist. Time to go through my Hallmark Christmas movie checklist. If you would like a free download of your own Hallmark Christmas movie checklist so you can print one out and go through all the traditional elements to see what each movie has, go ahead and click the link in the description below and you can download your own free copy and we can compare notes. The Christmas House, this took place, I think it was upstate New York. Anyway, definitely a snowy locale. We know Hallmark likes the snow. Let's see how many of these traditional Christmas activities on the checklist were in the movie. We had picking out a Christmas tree, yes. Decorating the tree, yes. In fact, they had multiple trees in their house, didn't they? Baking Christmas cookies, yes. And that was a sweet memory, kind of a flashback of Brandon being taught how to bake by his mom. And that was sweet because now, as a grown-up, Brandon has a bakery. No sleigh or carriage ride, no Christmas shopping, wrapping presents, opening presents, playing in the snow, yes. Family dinner, yes. I enjoyed that family relationship in this movie. Putting lights on the house, yeah, they were putting lights on everything, the whole time, right? Enjoying a cozy hot drink, of course, it's a Hallmark movie. Cooking, baking together, ice skating, making gingerbread houses, yes. I don't think they did any of these community events, and there were none of these acceptable but not needed, so we can skip those parts. Like I said, a different type of Hallmark Christmas movie, but no less Christmassy. My favorite secondary characters. I loved the character of Andy's son Noah. He was played by Mattia Castrillo. I hope I didn't butcher your name. And he played this lovable kid in kind of an awkward phase, lacking confidence, until Mike comes in and takes him under his wing. And Mattia did a really good job, I think, showing the arc of this character and his blossoming. Wardrobe for this movie, to be honest, I don't have a whole lot to say. It didn't stand out, which worked for this movie because this was a family drama and everyone was dressed appropriately for the season. People always look nice in a Hallmark movie. Like, you don't see people sitting around in baggy sweats, right? If they're home, they're wearing jeans and a nice sweater. But other than that, and of course the nice coats, because coats are the theme for 2020, aren't they? Especially Jake's, Andy's, and Mike's coats. I liked those the best. But they were just kind of nice, regular clothes. However, I will point out Andy's dress at the end when Mike asks her to be his assistant on stage and she takes off her coat and she's wearing a very sparkly dress, which was overdressed for the event, but totally appropriate for a magician's assistant. And I think it was indicative of her willingness to give him a second chance. Gotta have some nitpicks just to keep it real. There was a scene early on where the dad is showing a PowerPoint that he's put together of the plans for the Christmas house. And the sons are all surprised, like, Dad knows PowerPoint? And he says, I learned it at the library. But then this PowerPoint presentation has full-on 3D animation. And then my daughter's watching this and she's actually taken animation classes at school. And she's like, there's no way the dad would know how to do this after one class at the library. Another nitpick, we know pretty early on that there's something going on with the parents. We're not sure what, but something's going on. And it would have been nice if they dropped us little hints along the way to continue to develop that, even if they didn't tell us exactly what was going on, because they dragged this out. We didn't find out what was up with the parents until literally halfway through the movie. And in the meantime, they just kind of kept flashing back to these sad shots at the mom. And because they didn't tell us what was going on and give us any hints, we had no reason to feel sympathy from the mom. We were just irritated at, oh look, there's the mom being sad again. And then when they did tell us what was going on with the parents, which is that they were going to sell the house and split up for a time, I had trouble with the issues the mom was having. Honestly, it seemed like she was jealous that when her husband retired before her, he found things to occupy his time while she was still working. And now that she was retired, he was encouraging her to try new things. And it seemed like she just kind of wanted to be negative towards him and go do her own thing and find herself. The most we ever get that he has moved on is something he forgot to mention to her. And I forget to mention things to my husband all the time, and he does too. And that doesn't mean that he's got this whole other life without me. So that was a hole in the script. Like, they did not do a good job justifying that the dad had kind of left the mom in the dust, which consequently made me not have the sympathy for her that perhaps they wanted me to have. There was a silly scene in the movie where they've got so much that they're doing to create this Christmas house that they blow the lights and all the electricity goes out. And honestly, that was kind of forced and a dumb scene. What's noteworthy in the movie, I loved the relationship between Mike and Brandon. The brothers, the script and the actors really worked together to create this beautiful relationship. They had this great banter and they were supportive of each other, but they challenged each other and they argued and they were competitive, and that was really a joy to watch. And it wasn't just one scene, it was threaded throughout the whole movie, so great job to those two actors. And a big noteworthy thing is that Hallmark tackled two types of relationships and their issues that you don't usually see in a Hallmark movie. First, we had our first gay couple as leads, and then on top of it, they showed their struggle to adopt a child. I do feel like they could have done more with that storyline. They just kind of drop it in there so we know that this couple has something that they're dealing with, but then they let it go and kind of move on with the rest of the storyline until it's convenient to bring it up again. And I think they probably could have done a little better job developing that. But points to them for bringing that into the story. I also really appreciated having an older couple who wasn't just, oh, the parents in the background as supporters or non-supporters, but actually having their own issues and the issues that can be brought on in retirement in terms of their connection, or in this case, lack thereof. As I mentioned in my nitpicks, I don't think they developed this very well in the script, but I appreciate that they made the effort. And then another noteworthy thing is at the very end, when the Christmas house is all done and it's ready for guests and tours, and they show the children coming into the house and just focus on their faces and the wonder in their faces, and then they show them going into the different rooms and seeing all the little details. That was just a joy to watch. It really brought the wonder of Christmas right in front of us. It's always good to see Christmas through a child's eyes. Okay, where does this fall on my heartstring meter? My heartstring meter is purely what is my physical response to the various emotional strings that the movie is trying to pull. This got a 5 out of 5 on my heartstring meter. Oh my gosh, so many feels. Let me run through them. When Mike is at his meeting on Christmas Eve and he leaves for his second chance, which he realizes isn't right there in the meeting, it's at home. I already mentioned this, but when Andy takes off her coat and reveals her sparkly dress ready to be his assistant, I just thought it was so symbolic of a second chance at love, and yes, I got some little feels on that one. Oh, and right before that, when Mike introduces Noah's magic act, I don't know, I just thought that was precious. The ending of the movie when the sale of the house is announced, and I won't tell you more about it in case you haven't seen it yet, but it's a very satisfactory ending, and yes, I got warm feels on that one. And then when they get the phone call and the adoption is finalized and they have that moment when they're just so full of joy before they announce it to the family, and then the entire ending montage. So the very ending of the movie is this montage of the following Christmas. And you see the two dads with their son, and I just teared up on that. And you see the parents sharing a kiss out on a hike, and you see Mike and Andy and Noah, and then everybody around the table the following Christmas. I may not have been sobbing, but my eyes were definitely wet. My overall rating for this movie is a 4.5. Honestly, the ending montage probably tipped it from a 4 up to a 4.5. I had a few issues with the plot and the script on this movie, but overall, it was so heartwarming to see a well-rounded adult family in a Hallmark movie, and to see some established relationships navigate rocky times, as opposed to always just having sort of the new love kind of thing going on. What did you think of The Christmas House? Let me know in the comments below if you've seen it, if you liked it, and if you haven't seen it, go see it, and then come back and let me know what you think. If you got value out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you at my next review. Bye-bye.